Smart 24, driving business.
Hello, good evening and welcome along to Business Today. I'm Jerome Paul Sunko with Winnie Williams and Akauchi on Sign Language, and we're coming to you live from Block 42, Nile Avenue. Now we kick it off with Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, the Butambala Member of Parliament, who has stormed out of the Finance Committee in protest over what he called deceit from witnesses on the performance of the National Social Security Fund, NSSF. Now Samna Hanifa has the details to these proceedings.
The committee, which began with the presentation of the Deputy Managing Director, Patrick Ayota, who is now the Acting Manager Director of NSSF, asked whether people's money is safe given that the institution is suffering certain management issues.
But most important, and I know you know what's at the back of our mind, are our funds safe with NSSF? Now, one thing which has increased our anxiety, the Umeme, I think Cabinet has decided that they would not be renewing Umeme's concession. In
response to the committee's questions, Mr. Ayota told the MPs that people's money is very safe and that they need not worry about anything. Ayota further notes that the fund has performed excellently and that last year alone, savings totaled to more than 1.4 trillion shillings.
You can see it was increasing steadily up to 2019. When COVID hit, the numbers kind of declined a little bit. What surprised us is the decline was not as massive as we thought it was going to be. Even when we provided waivers, I think the next slide is the one that you have. Even when we provided waivers, members came back and paid. Because what members in Uganda have actually done, the reason why NSF is such of an interest company, because people know that the money the fund has is theirs.
However, the Butambala MP, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, cautioned the committee to go through the letter that was written by the Gender Minister, Honorable Betty Amongi, over the corruption surrounding this institution.
And with me is a letter that was written on 7th December 2002 by the minister just there, 2022. By the minister there, who is supervising you, detailing how horrible the situation is in NSSF, from declining members to gross corruption, gross incompetence. If you permit me, Chair, and the minister, if you permit me, Chair, it's not the question of the minister, the letter I have, I would lay it on table. We also go through it so that we get a true picture of what this gentleman, the MD, with due respect, is telling this committee.
Minister Betty Amongi denied the letter before the committee and told members that she does not know the source of the letter in question.
Letter being alluded to, I don't know the source. I have not seen it. And when we were invited in this committee, a letter was written by this committee for us to come and present the microeconomic issues. The purpose of the meeting is to present on the fund's trend in growth of membership.
The committee asked Honorable Chivumbi to give it time to investigate this letter, something which declined and walked out of the committee in protest.
With due respect, I've never done this in my political life. I've been here, but I beg to leave this meeting in protest. So it highlights a very, very big doubts in the NSS of incompetence, failure to invest wisely, and they are losing billions of money. The leaders in there are corrupt. So it speaks volumes. So how can they be in a meeting that is discussing the wrong things?
The chair to the committee, Honorable Kefa Chiwanuka, stressed out that they have not refused to discuss the letter, only that they needed time to bring it to the attention of the minister.
I did not refuse to discuss the letter brought by Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. I did not. I think Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi should also have been fair to tell me that there is a letter I have, and I'm going to introduce it in the meeting. The letter is 20 pages, and the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi introduces it in the meeting, and he wants the meeting to discuss the letter there and then.
The Minister of Labour, Social and Economic Development, Honorable Betty Amongi, recently refused to renew Byargaba's contract as NSSF's managing director, saying she received allegations of corruption against this institution's top leadership, and gave a green light to the reappointment of the NSSF's deputy managing director, Patrick Ayota. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now let's head to the Kabale Central Market turmoil. The several vendors, especially the tenants in Kabale, are protesting the unjustified allocation of space and lockups in the newly constructed Kabale Central Market. These tenants are up in the arms with the authorities, accusing them for unclear practices and the way of conduct used to distribute the lockups in the new market. We have more in this report.
The Kabale Municipal Authorities and Kabale Central Market tenants are involved in a new controversy. According to them, Kabale Municipality authorities are allocating lockups to certain people who have never worked in the market before, excluding strategically locked up lockups from raffle draws, among other things, which raises concern for them if they will receive lockups for rent later. In response, they have mobilized urgently and expressed their dissatisfaction, calling for a meeting with the authorities to present their issues.
We have found out that the best houses in this market were not selected. We have also learned of agents asking for bribes in order to allocate people.
Nina evidence yamazina gomuntu nenamba naroka pakibamu.
I have evidence of the name and number of a person who owns a lockup, yet they don't work in the market. My question is, why are they allocating lockups wrongly?
The tenants claim that in addition to the market project's delayed completion, they also suffered significant losses when moving to the Chigongo Police Barracks Market, which was gazetted, and yet during relocation, stalls are given to strangers.
Ministry came here and gave us guidelines. However, they are not following up on them. We have spent over 20 years here, so we allowed the market to be demolished. However, we are facing these losses, yet you're bringing other people to occupy the market.
In reply, the mayor of Kabale Municipality stated that the Markets Committee and the Ministry of Local Government Authorities had agreed to give out double or triple in one lockups to the owners who had more than one lockup earlier.
I have been openly dealing with tenants. However, there are some false accusations that I'm accepting bribes, and these should stop.
Sentalo adds that he has been bouncing the vendors who have attempted to bribe him for lock-up allocations, assuring the tenants who were previously in the old market and shifted to Chigongi Barracks Market that will be considered to take on lock-ups because they don't have where to go.
We are trying to give all tenants lock-ups. Even those with more than 3 lock-ups should also share with others.
In the same urgent meeting, the Assistant Programs Officer in charge of Community Development in the Ministry of Local Government, Prosito Hirire, was forced to highlight the ministry guidelines on the relocation of vendors, where she also used the platform to ask the tenants to be patient for they will get the lockups to use. Kabale Central Market construction is causing more trouble than it was planned to. It is still unclear whether all the sellers will be able to secure stalls given the suspected corruption's escalating levels. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now many thanks, Sabina Hanifa, for that report. Now we're going to talk matters World Economic Forum that is taking place in Davos in Switzerland as under the theme Deliberations and the Economic Outlook. Plus, the International Monetary Fund is recalling African oil-producing countries to create the physical buffers of 5 to 10% of their GDP as cushion against the fluctuating oil prices. Now, the key takeaways here for Uganda is that when you look at it, Uganda's GDP is equivalent to 48 billion US dollars. That is 5% of the GDP, which is a buffer equivalent to 2.4 billion US dollars. Now, to talk about how this particular Davos Economic Forum is likely to impact onto Uganda's economic growth, we are joined by Mr. Henry Mbazira, who is the Executive Director, Water Governance Institute, to take us through some of these particular highlights as well. Good evening, Mr. Henry Mbazira. Do you hear me this particular evening?
I hear you loud and clear. Good evening.
And many thanks for joining us on to Smart 24 TV. And we are definitely coming to you live from Plot 42 Nile Avenue. Now, one of my other questions would be, what does Africa's small representation at the World Economic Forum in Davos imply in terms of the global push for economic growth and recovery?
Now, you need to understand what the World Economic Forum is about in order for you to appreciate why you have a small African representation attending, always attending those meetings. Davos is a meeting that is held by the global economy main representatives, and it's a meeting where countries come together to discuss how the world economy should be guided or how it should move forward. And it talks about the developed and the low income or emerging economies on how they can play into the world economy. And it also lays strategies on how the developed countries can continue to hold a very strong position in economics in contrast to the developing countries. So in essence, the Davos meeting is not so much about the developing countries, it is more about the developed countries who are trying to find strategies on how they can continue to enrich themselves, and I would say at this stage at the expense of the developing countries. And for me, I think there is a paradigm of maintaining a poverty and rich dynamic where poverty drive is the engine of economic growth and development. So many times I keep questioning the plans for poverty reduction or poverty elimination because I do not see a situation where every country or everybody in the world will be rich. Because if you have such a scenario where you have everybody rich, that would mean there would be nobody working for the other. And so having a rich and poverty dimension is what drives economies. So the Davos meeting is not only about economic growth, it is also about access to minerals, which most of those minerals or natural resources are often found in the emerging economies like Africa and Asia and the other countries that are among the low-income countries. So it's also not just about oil and gas. It is also about food production, how they can control seed, for example, to move away from the traditional practice where farmers keep seed from the previous season to grow in the next season. So they would like to have a situation where seed is controlled and you have to buy every seed that you want to plant every season from the shop, meaning that there will be corporations which will be controlling seed. But to go back to what you've asked me about Uganda.
And coming into this particular situation.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What I wanted to ask, if we were to go back to Uganda, what does Uganda's representation at the World Economic Forum imply in terms of the global push for our economic growth and recovery?
Well, Uganda will attend, or even members of the African continent will attend that meeting as participants. But I do not imagine that their opinions really hold much water, because I think, in my opinion, they are rubber stamping a process that they don't have much contribution to. So just tick the box and say that African countries were represented in the Davos meeting. So if you allow me to digress a bit, you have seen what happened in the COP meeting in Egypt. Many of the issues that were discussed were not really taken very seriously, because this trend of climate change, climate financing, and is, for me, I refused to attend the meeting because I knew I was just going to go as a tourist. I didn't want to be part of that process. And so for as long as you have financing the greater polluting countries like the US and the others, China and the others, holding strong control of the economies, it will be very difficult for us to have a very fair and equitable financing for climate change. And even the mechanism that will come through, I don't believe that they are going to really have serious impact, and that Uganda's conversation will actually change the overall narrative that the developed countries would like to see. And for me, I always look at the transatlantic alliance members. These are Europe, Britain, France, and the US, who seem to have for a long time controlled the world economy. We are now seeing China coming on board, India coming on board, Brazil coming on board, and even trying to change or introduce a new or an alternative financing mechanism, which I welcome very much, because for as long as you have a one-track financing mechanism, that mechanism will be used to control the economy of the world. So financing.
I will be bringing in this particular
Yes.
question. Sorry to cut you short for that matter.
Yes.
You did mention something to do with the COP27 that occurred last year, as we're coming to the end of last year in Cairo. Now, my other question now is relating to matters to do with climate change. Now, how much worry does climate change, which is high on the Davos agenda, present for Africa and the global economic growth?
Oh, climate change is a real issue. I know there are some skeptics who think that climate change is something fake. But climate change is a reality because we've seen it affect Uganda and Africa at large. And so for as long as the developed countries do not commit to finance, at least contribute funding to countries that are most affected by climate change, we won't see a situation where response to the commitments at COP27 will be realized. Because to move away from the current drive of energy transition and moving away from fossil fuels to clean energies, we need to understand what it takes, because it means that countries which have been using oil as their resource for energy must change their industries, and industries must be prepared to change their production lines. Remember that many of these industries have invested in long-term money, which they are not prepared to lose. Majority of these corporations, you find them based in the US and other developed countries. So I don't see that quick movement away from fossil fuels, because they are still the drivers of many economies in the world. I mean, even the US recently commissioned some 2 pipelines. That tells you that oil is still going to be with us for some time. Yes, we are going to have a mixture of clean energy, infrastructure, and equipment, vehicles, and the things that we use at home. Houses will use more solar energy and probably wind, but that will not take away oil. In my own assessment, I think we are going to have oil for the next 50 years. It's going to be with us at least for the next 50 years. I have seen projections by economists saying that current crude oil prices might move up to $150 per barrel in the next 3 to 4 years. That is possible because we have seen ourselves moving from 23 to 85, 86, which is the current price of the crude oil today. And yes, oil is a very volatile resource. The prices rise and fall. So the question is how Uganda, which has not yet started producing oil, can cushion itself from those price fluctuations, because oil is still the driver of our economy.
Okay, now let's talk climate protection.
Over to you.
If you look at this, can climate protection in Uganda and Africa be achieved in the face of economic setbacks and, of course, the challenges that we are currently facing despite the agenda setting within the continent? If I'm to re-ask the question again, I think for me, you're hearing me. Can climate protection be achieved in the face of economic factors?
Climate protection, environmental protection can be achieved. I believe it can achieve if we commit, because Uganda has excellent policies and laws. And I have seen our policies and laws being copied in Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda, and being implemented probably better in Rwanda. Yet in Uganda, we are the originators of some of those ideas. So I think for me, it's about the commitment that we have to comply with the safeguards and standards that we set, because we have the instruments, we have the qualified people. I think we're just missing the will to exercise what we have put on the documents. Really, people say it's the political will, but I also think it is the individual will to make sure that whoever is in a position of decision-making, they actually follow through to what the law says. But we are having a governance arrangement which seems to circumvent every legal principle and policy that we have put in place. And so for me, that would be our actually standard. It will be what is going to make us fail to achieve our climate protection. And, because after all, Africa is not emitting as much as the US or the other countries. I think together we are contributing less than 1.5% of the global emissions. So honestly, the principle, polluter pays principle, needs to apply, because the greatest polluters should be the ones to pay for the damage that is being caused on the environment.
I'm to ask, what would have been your priority cause for concern, provided you are a contributor to the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos?
Can you repeat the question? I missed first part of it.
Well, what I wanted to say is that what would be, in your own opinion, what would be your priority focus, if at all you're a contributor in the ongoing World Economic Forum?
Well, for me, I would seek for the developed countries to contribute to the climate financing basket. And I would ask them to put in place an arrangement where the most affected countries receive financing in the form of grants, not in the form of loans, because I know that the IMF, the World Bank are going to put in place an array of financing mechanisms that include equity and debt, loan, and grants. But for the grants, and the grants are probably going to be a very small fraction of that. We are going to have more of the equity and loan, meaning that much of the money will go to the private sector. And for the loan, those that also have a big proportion, because the principle that I know that the developed countries have always had is that there is no free money. They'll always give money and make sure that they make a profit on the money they've given you. You need to go back to the World War II when the World Bank and IMF were being set up. They gave money to countries that were affected mostly by the war. They thought were affected by the war. And some African countries, including Ghana, borrowed money. Up to this day, they are paying that loan. So there is no financing that is going to come that is big to be given free to the countries that are most affected. So for me, I would like to see countries creating their own reserves, being able to build their technical capacity, technological capacity, and even the financing to be able to exploit the natural resources that they have. We tend to rely on foreign direct investment, and we think that foreign direct investment will be the silver bullet to make us, to move us from poverty to riches. That won't happen. It's until we learn to have domestic direct investment and provide credit that is affordable and cheap locally. That is what is going to drive our economic growth. We need to look at what happened in Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Asian tigers, who have, in 1972, were even poorer than Uganda, but today are one of the richest countries in the world.
All right, Mr. Henry Mbazira, it's been a pleasure having you tonight in our discussion here on Business Today. And we've been honored to have you with your insightful discussions and of course, it has reached and impacted quite a number of business people who've been watching this particular time. We do wish you a good evening.
I'm glad to be hosted here.
Pleasure's ours. And of course, for now, the viewers, just a simple breakdown for you here. The 52 heads of states in attendance, more than half from Europe, than the world, which has 195 countries. Now, more than 2,700 leaders from 130 countries have attended the World Economic Forum, which kicked off yesterday. Do remember the South African president did not make it there, and nor did the president of Uganda. Now, Africa's representation at Davos, as compared to the growth of African Investment Forum that was held in Kigali, had close to 300 African and other global leaders. It does continue, and we shall be giving you more details regarding that same matter. You're still watching Business Today. I'll be right back after the break.
Smart 24, driving business.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2, select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3, enter your full names. Step 4, enter your national identification number. Step 5, enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Sky. Futimbuto, the taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Chinayuchinyumira. Whether it is Katogo, Chikomando, Rolex Majasa to Nyanyambisi. Man, wherever I am, I enjoy Chinayu with your TV channels on my phone.
Nyumiro omulembo omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kw'otadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya GOTV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwa ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data. GOTV channels.
Smart 24, driving business.
Right, now we'll be back from the break. President Yoweri Museveni yesterday departed for the United Arab Emirates on a 3-day official visit. Now, while he was there, he appealed to the United Arab Emirates business community to come and invest more in Uganda and take advantage of the many untapped opportunities available in the country. We have more in this report.
The United Arab Emirates Uganda Presidential Initiative on Investment informed participants that although Uganda's economy is growing at 6% per annum, the economy has a great potential to grow faster, stressing the need for value addition for agricultural products such as coffee, maize, and leather.
Add value to, don't just continue with the raw materials. Create an economy which is integrated vertically and also horizontally by adding value and creating interlinkages.
The remittances of Ugandans working in the United Arab Emirates has jumped from $50 million in 2018 to $1.5 billion today, while foreign direct investment rose from $600 million to $1.5 billion. To lure more investment and increase investor confidence, ministers promised the people in the United Arab Emirates more benefits for a better investment turnover.
As opposed to direct taxes. Let's focus on eliminating corruption out of our system. Let's give free land, which is an incentive that is given nowhere but in Uganda for development. Let the people bring money in Uganda and we transform and build Uganda and build the private sector. Your Excellency, today we talk about us being among the top 10 best investment destinations in Africa.
Our colleagues and friends from the UAE who intend to invest in Uganda, I'll tell you that you have not bet. This is one of the best choices you've made to invest in Uganda. Uganda is a country that once you're visited, then you don't want to leave Uganda. I must warn you this. So if you intend to come to Uganda, you'll visit Uganda and never leave Uganda. The opportunities, whether it be as a tourist, be as investors, in any form of residence, is so attractive that you'll make Uganda either your home or your second home.
With efforts to market Uganda's oil and gas, Jimmy Mugera expounds how resourceful Uganda is about to be in this industry.
Beyond manufacturing and commercial agriculture, opportunities to partner and invest in Uganda are available also in oil and energy. And I think, let me spend just a minute to entice the partners here. But Uganda has found oil and gas and is going to produce 230,000 barrels a day. It's probably the best onshore project today in the world. Very, very low cost to find, but the opportunities that are going to come with it, both the direct, the indirect, and the induced opportunities are huge. It's a $15 billion investment. It is going to create jobs, and for almost all of you who stood up to speak here, there is a way you will connect to the oil and gas.
The investment forum was concluded with signing of memorandum of understandings for tea value addition, as well as engagement of agro-processing, tourism and hospitality, real estate, aviation, banking, mining, health and education sectors. Runana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, as we continue, farmers have resumed supplying coffee to the Bugisu Cooperative Union, which has stockpiled 2,000 tons of Arabica coffee, more than double the union's total kilograms purchased between 2018 and 2021. Now, the growers had previously refrained from supplying the union due to poor administration and low coffee prices. More in this report.
The Bugisu region's coffee farmers have always encountered difficulties, particularly when dealing with the middlemen. The 1954 founded Bugisu Cooperative Union, one of the cooperatives still in operation in Uganda, which consists of coffee farmers spread throughout the Bugisu sub-region, served as a buffer for the farmers until poor management forced them to cut out the middlemen and sell their coffee directly to producers. According to Nandala Mafabi, the union stocks coffee based on the quality and quantity produced by farmers.
God gave us. So the price goes with quality, goes with quantity, another with quality. Why? What type of Arabica are we talking about? So that's why for us in the Bugisu Cooperative Union, we have told the farmers our coffee purchases will not go below 11,800 kilos, despite the middlemen who are saying they should buy it at 9,000. That's why we have said, let us collect our coffee, keep it, the people who need it will come. As we speak now, we have almost finished the whole good Arabic coffee from the market. Now those who like good coffee are coming in.
The price of a kilogram of Arabica coffee in Bugisu Cooperative Union has increased from 6,700 to 11,800 shillings, according to the quality of Arabica coffee, which affects its pricing.
The same coffee that was produced is the same coffee that was produced last year. So the difference this year was because the union offered the constant price from the start of the season up to now, whereas other multinational and stakeholders are offering slightly lower price. The buying system is buying coffee based on the quality. So the higher the quality, the higher the price. So people have now shifted from low quality coffees to higher quality coffees because of the pricing.
The cooperative's main goal is to shield economically unprivileged parts of the society from the persecution of the economically powerful and well-organized element of the society. Therefore, growers who provide coffee seeds directly to the cooperative will have a safety net in the event of any economic unrest. Bronya Katsume, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, as a way of ensuring quality in the oil and gas sector, Starbucks International is one of the 15 companies in Uganda that have so far acquired the International Organization for Standardization certification. And according to the Ministry of Works and Transport, Venerable Katumba Wamala, this will enable the transformation of regions through creation of employment opportunities. He further urged oil companies to tap into the opportunities within the oil and gas sector. Naman Mutumba with more.
registration topics of ISO.
That we are unveiling our ISO certificate. It has been a process that has involved facts based on quality, quantity, and also assurance.
To meet the expectation of customers and stakeholders, the petroleum industry must continually improve the quality of its products and services due to its high levels of dynamic competition. According to Daniel Cherutich, the general manager of Starbucks, this is accomplished through earning the International Organization for Standardization certification.
Our vision being reliable and progressive oil and marketing company in Eastern and Central Africa. In pursuit of customer satisfaction, the management took a decision to implement the 3 ISO certification, which number 1, as we have been told by Geoffrey, was on quality management. The second one is on environmental management, and the third one is on health and safety.
ISO certification is a comprehensive process that ensures that all requirements have been met. In order to be competitive, organizations must be able to provide a high level of service while also remaining cost-effective. The impact of technology on every aspect of our lives is significant, particularly in the energy sector.
We take deliberate and intentional cognizance of the need for organizations to go that particular extra mile in developing platforms and valuable substance in service and delivery.
One of Uganda's most urgent problems is the unemployment of young people. However, business certification will enable the expansion of youth employment options due to legibility of the company.
Youth employment is one of our biggest challenges here in the country, but I think it's global. Everywhere it's a challenge. But now you have given these people jobs. You may not know that when you give this lady here employment, behind her could be 5 people who are assured of a meal.
First of all, employment, they employ our local people. Secondly, their customer responsiveness or customer service. Thirdly, the prices are reasonable. The prices are reasonable as compared to other companies.
Petroleum companies have been asked not to sit back and instead to seize prospects for growth in the oil and gas sector, as well as access to the Albertine region.
As you know, we have our oil industry coming up. It's just a virgin area. It's just starting. Please aim bigger. There are many opportunities down there in the Albertine region. So please don't be comforted with what you have achieved, because you can still make it bigger from this, from our environment here. The opportunity is there for you to grow it bigger.
The certification of 3 ISOs, namely ISO 9001 for quality management, ISO 14001 for environmental management, and ISO 45001 for occupational health and safety, facilitates the import, export, wholesale, and retail trading of petroleum products. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, has warned the government about their failure to solve the issue of schools, despite the fact that the school is set to begin and most of them have raised their tuition. This has left vulnerable Ugandans with little alternative. And in this regard, the Speaker wishes to get this issue handled before the start of schools. Samla Hanifa reports.
The issue was raised in Parliament by Honorable Osman Basalirwa, who stated that several schools had raised their prices for the upcoming term, despite the fact that the government has not offered any policy on the subject.
The information we are picking from the media is not conclusive that there is a policy being set up by Cabinet on the issue of fees, and that there is a statutory instrument.
The issue was emphasized further by Honorable Solomon Sirwany, who told the legislature that schools have decided to include many more requirements without outright raising fees, but the total amount is significantly higher.
Is that what is actually happening is that different schools are hiding costs. They don't call it school fees, but they hide the fees remains the same. Then they bring in issues like development fees. They bring in certain items that automatically make the school fees very, very high. And when the minister is bringing the statutory instrument, this should be covered. He should have something that is very clear, like he committed himself here on the floor of Parliament.
According to Honorable Sarah Opendi, the matter in question is before the Committee of Education and it should be given space on the order paper to present it to the legislature.
Right Honorable Speaker, in February last year, I brought here a motion regarding the issue of exorbitant school fees. This motion has been before the committee almost 1 year now, Right Honorable Speaker. As the government brings this statutory instrument here, that's not enough. The committees of this House work on behalf of this Parliament. And therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to request you to use your good office to ask the committee to bring that report here, because I'm sure they consulted stakeholders so that we can debate.
Speaker Anita Among has directed that the issue above be resolved before schools begin because every Ugandan deserves an affordable education.
Fees that is paid, including the requirements, not hiding other fees on requirements, and yet we have a right to education as per Article 30 of the Constitution.
Government has assured Parliament that the matter in question will be addressed after Cabinet makes a resolution on Monday during the Cabinet meeting.
On the issue of school fees and school charges, I want to confirm to you that the Ministry of Education is considering this and has prepared a Cabinet paper which is going to be discussed on Monday, and on the side of government we'll be able to inform you and the country on the possible direction that we are taking through the Minister of Education.
The legislature awaits the report of the Education Committee regarding the matter of hiking school fees on the 24th of this month. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
On the school fees.
Now, the Ugandan National Bureau of Standards has lamented about limited funds. Despite Uganda's reputation as one of the world's most entrepreneurial nations, the increase of inferior and fake goods on the market poses a challenge to the survival and expansion of businesses. However, the bureau in charge of enforcing product standards before they reach the market has complained about having a limited budget to carry out its duties. So where does this leave the fight against the substandard products on the market? We find this and more with Pedersen Mombere.
The Ugandan market is still overwhelmed with substandard products. A report from the Uganda National Bureau of Standards indicated that 54% of the both imported and domestic produced products are substandard as of 2017, and up to date the status quo has remained. Dr. David Livingstone, the Executive Director, Uganda National Bureau of Standards, and Honorable Mwine Mpaka, the Chairperson, Parliamentary Committee on Trade, attributes the failure to limited resources to check the system.
So there has been the issue of the budget. What does UNBS need to be able to fulfill its mandate? A UNBS budget has been reducing over time, despite the increase in the need for UNBS to contribute to the protection of the citizens and to contribute to market access of our products to international markets.
Well, we have a big challenge with UNBS because they lack resources. First of all, we have only one lab, and it's found in Kampala. This means if you are to test a product at the border, you'd have to drive it all the way to Kampala, which would take about 1 day. Test it, take it back to the border, it will take about 4 days. So we need regional laboratories. On top of that, we are understaffed.
Recently, the civil society organizations urged the government to prioritize staff recruitment in a phased approach in order to improve inspection, supervision, and the training of the business community on standards compliance, which Dr. Livingstone confirmed.
A part of the money we want is to recruit staff. As we are aware, we have a number of porous borders where actually substandard products pass. We need to close those porous borders by putting staff there. On the market, we need to make sure that we are on the market to ensure that every product that does not meet the safety requirements is removed from the market.
On top of that, we are understaffed. The scientists we have are not present in all the regions. You saw what happened in Arua the other day when someone made alcohol without certification and people died. So we are understaffed. Even the money to transport even our scientists to go to the field is not available.
Dr. Livingstone repeated that they phased out some of the fees that had previously been imposed on enterprises seeking to satisfy their goods.
UNBS has reduced its cost structure for certification over time in consideration that our role is not money-making but to promote compliance to standards. So the private sector is aware of our intervention of reducing the cost of certification. We have also offered up to 600 free permits to make sure that these small enterprises who are struggling to get money for certification are given a UNBS quality mark to be able to put the product on the market, make money so that going forward they are able to sustain the payment of our quality.
According to the auditor's report, 2021, out of the approved staff structure of 666 positions, the Bureau had only filed 439, leaving a staffing gap of 227. As a result, there was a staff presence at only 27 out of 170 border entry points. Hence, a risk of substandard products entering the country through border points where the Bureau staff is not present. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now let's look at the South-to-South Triangular Cooperation. The government of Uganda, in partnership with the African Peer Review Mechanism, has hosted the second high-level forum on South-to-South Triangular Cooperation under the theme Building National Capacities for South-to-South and Triangular Cooperation Ecosystems in Africa, and forging horizontal partnerships for sustainable and resilient societies. Monica Navyunga has the details to this report. Now, besides that particular one, as we look forward to getting more of that report, let's look at the fate of planning in business. Uganda's businesses are still streamlining the projects due to insufficient planning frameworks to help run all developmental projects. Now, the various business owners are undertaking follow-ups on various projects that help run the business, but are still failing due to poor planning and inadequate funds to support these projects. We have more in this report.
Proper planning involves critical thinking, clear execution, and review of any project run in the business. Small-scale businesses poorly plan due to the failure to manage and break down the business objectives, hence letting down the business. Some businesses will continue to collapse due to poor planning and poor project coordination.
When you talk about projects, you're basically looking at two things. You're looking at planning, you're looking at execution, you're looking at review. Now, the issue with, and the president said it, the president said when he was launching the petroleum thing, he said the problem with us is we have a problem of poor planning. You see, Africans in general spend 10%. If you're going to do something, you'll spend between 5 to 10% planning, or not at all. And then you spend 90% execution. And then no review. Of course, during execution, you make all kinds of mistakes.
Small farms have long lagged behind in this area. This explains why small enterprises, many of which are still in their infancy, are collapsing at an increasing rate. Thus, planning aids in being prepared for any potential company hassles.
Poor planning, poor planning, poor planning. That is followed by poor execution. You see, we Ugandans are great talkers. Budget framework paper, 49.9 trillion. This is human capital development. But do we execute? Do we execute?
While preparing a business plan, stakeholders should be involved in order to properly break down all the priorities and objectives of the business future. Business owners should consider suitable donors of the project as they plan in order to source out money that can support the business.
We need to look at the aligning of the donors and you who is writing, typically. For example, if you are into small-scale industries, you need to look for donors, or you need to look for a funder who is actually funding into the line of what you do. So when you do that, you're aligning your interests with the line, with the thinking of the donor. And this actually brings about a convergence. You come together and think together, and this can win a proposal at the end of the day.
Businesses should collaborate with supporting organizations like WUZIA, FSME, UDB, and others to help them plan their operations properly. Proper planning will project in their performance, since profits will accumulate and expenditure will be easily traced and accounted for. Martha Nimsima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Thank you very much for being part of tonight's bulletin. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Buyinza Nakauchi on sign language, and we've been coming to you live from Block 42, Nile Avenue. Have a blessed night. Good evening.